This is Spotlight with DJ Brex.
I was sick, ill. I had meningitis. I went into a coma.
Flavor then.
No.
Because many people who are going through a very tough moment, sometimes they think that it's just themselves. And people can go to an extent of trying to take away their lives
100%.
based on something they're actually going through. But I feel like when people come across your story, it could be inspiring. Be like, okay, if she made it through, I can make it through as well. And I ask, was it to do with maybe your words was not freely or being accepted when you complain about something?
A bit of that. But you also know, like, our parents don't they don't validate our emotions. You'd say something, they'll just be,
they would think
pardon,
you're weak.
you know, you're too weak. Crying is often associated to weakness.
Hello and welcome to another special episode of Spotlight. I go by the name Aaron Mkd, a.k.a. DJ Brex, and I'm your host on this show. Today we have the pleasure of welcoming a truly inspiring guest. She proudly represented Miss Congo in the UK, showcasing not only her beauty, but also intelligence and culture on an international stage. She has also shared her voice and perspective on the popular Congolese show called Solo La Bien, where she engaged audiences with authenticity and passion. Today, she joined us for a special conversation. So today we are actually going to be talking about faith, culture, identity, heritage, and values that shapes who we are. So please, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcoming the wonderful, the amazing Miss Karolina.
Hello.
How you doing? You okay?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's also a pleasure and honor to have you on this show. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, as you said, I represented Congo, Miss Congo UK in 2012. I was actually first runner-up. I also took part in Solo La Bien. Other than that, I work full-time like everyone else.
You are a Congolese born.
I am.
And a Greek. That's a very interesting mix. This is my first time
Really?
actually meeting someone who is mixed with the Greek. So can you tell us a little bit about that experience growing up in a Congolese house and having the Greek culture as well?
I actually wasn't quite exposed to the Greek culture.
Okay.
I was born in the Congo, raised in the Congo by a Congolese mother and in a Congolese family. Unfortunately, my father wasn't quite in the picture. I was in contact with him, but he wasn't quite in the picture. So I've not really got much of a Greek culture.
So I take you have a lot of Congolese culture that's actually representing yourself than the Greek culture. And with that, what other values are you carrying with you? The Congolese values that you're taking with you?
I'd like to say I think Greek are probably similar because we're all human, right? And I think the value that I carry with me would mainly be respect, community, service, and I think that's been passed down to me from my grandma who actually raised me. So those are the core value that really carries me rather than I.
Do you know what I thought? I thought you were going to say pondu.
When it comes to food, I eat everything. I'm not picky when it comes to food. I'm very adventurous when it comes to food. So anything I would try.
Now, in terms of you leaving Congo, moving to the UK, what differences do you see between the Congolese and the British is anything that you're like, okay, this is similar, or this is not similar, or this I can take, or this I cannot take? Do you feel like that sometimes?
Yes, most times, in fact. I feel like Congo and the UK is completely different. It's literally
We all know that.
contrasted.
Yeah.
Like the complete opposite. I think on both sides there are things that I would take in the Congo, and there are things that I would take in the UK. So, for example, coming to England, things were completely different. I was able to choose. It's almost as if I was given a blank page and I had to write my story from scratch, you know?
Yeah.
And there were loads of opportunities, loads of freedom and freedom of choices. I think what I
Your
would...
parents are not listening to this, so you'll be like, okay.
They know this, don't worry.
She want freedom from us.
They know this. It's not new news. I always talk about this. But so...
They'll be like, you open now, so goes like in a
liberté. No, there's a lot of freedom and opportunities here, which is great for growth, you know. And if you're of a curious nature, you can easily feed yourself, but it's also important to filter through and not just get anything. But what I would take from the Congo, I think it's community. That's something we don't have here.
Definitely.
I think being in England, what I found is that community is very superficial, and that's mainly because people are busy making money. The tax rate is really high. People need to, you know, there's not flexibility like back home. What we have so preciously back home is community. You know that someone's always going to be there for you. You know that saying that goes, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah, true. To raise a child. Yeah.
That applies in Africa. It doesn't apply in Europe. It doesn't, because who's going to leave their 9 to 5 or their overtime to come look after your child? Do you know what I mean? Like,
everybody's busy.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have to make a living.
Exactly.
If you had given a chance to learn the Greek culture, would you take it?
I would, 100%.
Then why not get a plane and just go to...
I mean, I've taken the plane and I've been there a few times. I think...
And apparently Greece is beautiful.
It's gorgeous. Oh my God. You should visit.
Yeah.
There's so many beautiful islands. It's heaven-like, honestly. But I think where I wanted to start with the Greek stuff was to learn the language. And you probably know this. Greeks have completely different alphabet, so it makes it quite challenging for me. But I can say a few words, you know, I can pick up on a few words here and there, but it's just finding the time and, you know, learning the whole thing.
Now, you talked about writing and expressing yourself, and you started at a very early age, and I believe you were about 11 years old when you started.
10, 11, yes.
When you started...
oh, you did your research, huh?
Yeah, I did. I did.
Love that.
And what made you like, okay, I'm just going to express myself by writing things down? And because it's a brave thing to do. And you also mentioned that it took about 4 years for you to think that to go and just put it on a public place. I mean, when you started at that age, what was the reason?
So if we roll back, growing up, I was an only child. My mum only had one child, so just me.
Okay, I can tell.
You can tell?
I can tell.
Just me. And growing up, I one thing that I struggled with was to be understood. I felt like I wasn't understood. I felt like I couldn't confide in anyone, not because my parent was around or anything like that, but it's just like I just felt different, and it was hard. There are things that I couldn't express verbally because of the fear of being misunderstood. Yeah. And so I must have been 10, 11. At school, they taught us how to write paragraphs and punctuation and stuff like that. Yeah. I just took my little notepad and I just started writing about my feelings. It was a safe place for me, a place where I trusted, a place where I could cry safely, a place where I could express all these unknown feelings that I had, whether that was that I was having a bad day, a good day, whether I was confused, I was sad, because you also grew up in an African household, and I think you would understand when I say emotions are often neglected.
I was going to ask, was it to do with maybe your words was not freely or being accepted when you complain about something?
A bit of that, but you also know, like, our parents don't they don't validate our emotions. You'd say something, they'll just be
they would think
you're you know, you're too weak. Crying is often associated to weakness, but crying is one of the core emotions that a human can feel.
Would you say many people are vulnerable because of that?
They hide their vulnerability because of that. And I think hiding your vulnerability makes you weak.
Okay.
Pretending to be strong makes you weak. Crying is not a sign of weakness.
How are you supposed to express yourself if your expression is not being welcome?
I think it starts with being emotionally available. You can't express yourself to someone who's not emotionally available and expect them to understand you.
True.
That's the basic. And I feel like most of our parents, or at least the generation before us, we're not there.
So this is something which has been inherited.
100%.
And you can't blame
100%. And I felt lonely most of the time. So my notepad was my safe place. That was my best friend. I would go there, and then before sleeping or during the day or whatever, whenever I had like a joyful or a sad or a confused, whatever emotion I was feeling, I would just run to my notepad and just start writing about it, you know? I felt good after. Whether I cried during writing or not, I felt good after. I felt free after. And I think that's been quite something for the longest part of my life. Writing has been my way of expression. I've always been better at writing what I felt than speaking it out loud.
So what should people who are reading your journal, because it's on public, that's how I got to find it, what should you expect them to take from your writing?
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
That's always been the message. I think when I say that, because when did I launch? 2021? Not 22, maybe 21 or 22. But the reason behind me pushing it publicly was a healing walk for me.
Yeah.
Because I'd been writing it for so long, it was there for me. But then I felt like writing it, I became numb to it. Then I felt like pushing it out there to, you know, it was like another step of me coming out of my comfort zone and freeing myself even further. But then the main goal has always been, if at least one person can relate and feel like, okay, I'm not the only one and I'm not the crazy one here, then that's all that matters for me.
That'll take you a lifesaver then.
No.
Because many people who are going through a very tough moment, sometimes they think that it's just themselves. And people can go to an extent of trying to take away their lives
100%.
Based on something they're actually going through. But I feel like when people come across your story, it could be inspiring. Be like, okay, if she made it through, I can make it through as well. If she's done it, there's a possibility that I can do it as well. So sometimes I feel like God allows people to go through certain things.
100%.
Not for themselves.
For others.
For others as well.
100%.
And I feel like that's what life is built about, to serve one another somehow, some way. Now, speaking of God, can we talk about your faith?
Yes.
Okay. So how did you become a believer or a Christian?
I was born in a church. My story is actually interesting.
Right.
I don't think many people know of this, but
I think we all want to listen to it. We want to hear it.
Well, when I say I was born in the church, I was born, and I believe around 9 months after my birth, I was sick, ill. I had meningitis. I went into a coma.
No way.
My heartbeat was slowing down and everything, and there were almost no luck for me to come back. My grandma had the brilliant idea, because my grandma was Catholic, so she had the brilliant idea to get me baptized, because she was like, okay, if I'm going to die, she'd rather I die Christian.
Okay.
So I got baptized. Shortly after, the days that followed, I started picking back up again. Obviously, the doctors said that because I was in a coma for a while, I may be a bit slow.
Okay.
Or I may not be able to walk again, because prior to that, I was beginning to walk. I was crawling, getting up, and so they were like, this may have slowed things down. We'll see. I walked, after my first birthday, I believe, I started walking. They were like, oh yeah, so it will be, the intellectual part, that will be the speeches, that, all the intellectual stuff will be affected. It wasn't, thankfully, we praise God. I think from a very young age, my grandma just took me to church with her. I was like her handbag, basically, her purse. Yeah. She took me everywhere, including church. Every Sunday I had to be at church with her, from 7 a.m. So I was there with her all the time, and it was just routine for me. At age 15, 16, I decided that I wanted to do my Holy Communion, so I found a place, and I found a parish place. Right. I found a parish, and I began to, follow the courses so I can get my my Holy Communion, which I did. Shortly after, I moved to the UK.
Right.
A few months later, I moved to the UK. Coming to the UK, obviously that was routine. I tried to keep up with the routine. Yeah. The truth is, because I was taken to church every Sunday since I was really young. Yeah. Did I really understand what was going on there?
Probably.
Was I really following?
No.
Did I know why I was doing the stuff that we were doing? Nothing. So I was just following routine, which meant when I'd be at Mass, for example, the priest, all the readings, I'm not there. Daydreaming. All the homily, I wasn't following. So I would come out as empty as I got in there, Yeah. Early 20s, I just gave up on the routine, and that was the point anyways, Wow. God is God. I stopped believing, and other words, but I think I had a safety net knowing that my grandma was always praying for me. She was interceding for me, and that was, I could be wild, and it was, she's praying, In the back of my mind, that was subconsciously. A few years later, she died in 2015. And after she died,
wow,
I went into darkness, as in, I just felt completely naked. I felt like I had no safety net. I was just exposed.
And she was everything for you.
Yeah. And I lost all purpose in life. I was literally at the verge. I remember every day I'd wake up, get ready for work, go to work. I had this mask on, very bubbly, very smiley and all this. The moment I step out of the office, it's just tears rolling down my cheeks, It's like,
jeez.
I was like, there's no purpose. Like, why am I even alive? I might as well just end it now, And God being God, God being loving, and God being this amazing Father that He is, He put on my way a friend. Until then, I'd never expressed my feelings to anyone, especially my dark feelings and sad feelings. I would never. And this was a one-off. I was doing counselling, and it was just irritating me altogether. And that day, I messaged this friend, and I was like, can you talk? And then he was like, let's meet up. And this was the first time I opened up to someone that was close to me. Yeah. And I felt as if a weight was lifting up my shoulders. Yeah. I remember so the week before when I went to the counselling, I was on a high alert. came back the following week. She was like, what's changed? You completely changed. But when I spoke to my friend, who is still a very big believer, and I really praise God for his life, as I was speaking, I literally broke in tears. It was in Cafe Nero. I broke in tears and I was just like crying and just talking. I finished and he's like, okay. He just listened to me and finished, and he was like, can we pray? Wow. And then he ended the Bible to me.
Jeez.
He was like, I always had the Bible. You know, I was gifted the Bible for my Holy Communion.
Right.
I carried that Bible with me everywhere since I was 16. Like, I literally, everywhere I go, I always have that Bible. Yeah. Have I ever opened it until then? Never. He presented the Bible to me and he's like, listen, I've gone through tough time in life, but this is what helped me.
Wow.
And that changed my life. And I think from that point onwards, I sought to develop a relationship with Christ rather than being a Christian.
Okay.
You know, it was more about having that intimate relationship with Christ, knowing who Christ was, relying on him, because you can't, I can't be here saying that I'm a follower of Christ and I rely on him if I don't know who it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's when the journey really began. I want to say 2016.
Wow.
Early 2016, it all began.
This is a very interesting story because it is, number one, a miracle that you survived from when you were a baby. Number two, as God showed you that there is not only family that can be there for you, and God is the one that gives and is the one that takes, but he's the one that also provides.
100%.
So when he takes, it can provide. Knowing that there was a friend who can actually help you to make better decisions, even though it was dark at that particular moment for yourself. I feel like many people don't understand how God works. No. God works miraculously.
In mysterious ways.
To a point where it can provide people in your life.
100%.
Knowing that there's a lot going on with yourself, but these people you think they're the most important, but there's also somebody else that are brought to you. And this is why I've always say, like, having the right people surrounding you, it's amazing. They can take you far in life.
100%. And sometimes it's not even the people you think are the right people.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like you said in the beginning, you said God will make you go through something because he needs you to help somebody else.
True.
And that friend of mine had gone through something so painfully that he was shaped through fire.
Jeez.
And he was able to then lend me a hand. Do you know what I mean?
Now imagine if he wasn't built for it. I'd be like,
and this is a friend.
Karolina,
can I also mention this is a friend that I had not known for a long time. It wasn't one of my longest friendship. It was one of my fresh
legs.
I met this friend right after my grandma's funeral in Congo. He happened to be in Congo. I happened to be there for my grandma's funeral. We met. We clicked. We exchanged contact. So I had no business telling him my business, basically. He couldn't care less, you know. But God being God, he placed him there at the specific moment.
Yeah.
He's always on time. When we say God is always on time, he's always on time. He placed that person there at the specific time.
Wow.
Because he knew 2-3 weeks down the line, this person will come in handy, you know. Yeah. 2-3 weeks down the line, he will put that desire for me to open up to someone, and he had to be that person. I think if I turned to anyone else around me, that would just tell me the usual. It's on ma vie, you know. C'est la vie. It's okay, just, you know, just firm it, it's fine.
If somebody's watching right now, okay, let me put it this way. If somebody's watching right now, and if you had to go back in the past, what would you tell these two people? One is an 11-year-old yourself, and two, as somebody who doesn't know, they just met you, they're watching right now for the first time or listening for the first time. Based on the experience you have and what you've gone through, what can you tell them?
To the 11-year-old me?
Yep.
Little me. Oh, God.
At
Okay.
that particular moment, you're trying to write and express yourself.
Believe in yourself. And
Sorry.
it's okay. Believe in yourself and trust that you're never alone in everything that you do. God's always got you.
Yeah.
And I think to whoever is watching right now, the me now, it would literally be the same thing. Believe in yourself and trust that God is working something good.
Yeah.
And everything will make sense at the right time. So I know that sometimes we go through hardship and we start doubting, and it may seem like there's no road to lead us anywhere, and it's all dark. The tunnel seems so long and so dark. Just trust the process.
Yeah.
There's always that little light at the end of the tunnel. There's always. I think even if we don't go back to 11-year-old me, if we had to go back to 16 years ago when I arrived to the UK,
Yeah.
if you told me that I would be here, the person I am today,
Yeah.
I wouldn't believe you. I wouldn't believe you a second.
Crazy.
It is.
Well, I just want to tell you this, that before God's eye, you're special. And there is enough evidence to that.
100%.
I mean, not many babies survives, though.
True.
It's crazy. Not many babies survives, and especially in places where hospitals don't have enough materials and stuff. Where we've come from, we know the reality. Do you know what I mean? And so we can't blame it that it was the doctor, it was spatial,
No.
it was machines and stuff.
It's been God.
This is God. Do you know what I mean? And I just want to encourage you that you might go through another situation in life. Always carry this with you, that you are special before God. And God is talking in Jeremiah chapter 1. He says, I knew you before you were even born. I called you, I set you apart. So we are God's people. And when the things that goes wrong and people don't understand God, when we stop believing because of the circumstances. So for me, I feel like we are very special with a very specific path to take, but we should never turn our back on God because of the situation. So for me, every time you go through a tough moment, always
Look back.
just rely on God and say, God,
Amen.
it doesn't matter if I have to go through this, but let us go together. I'd rather
100%.
not go at all, but with you, I know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Definitely.
So
One thing I like, just as you were speaking, I remember, or I had this little image of, was it Peter?
Right.
That got called to walk on the waters.
On the water, yeah.
And you say the circumstances may seem like, and it's like, and I literally just had that image of Peter when Jesus is like, come, when he's like, Master, let me walk on waters with you, come.
Yeah.
Jesus is like, come. He comes, he starts walking.
Yeah.
Then he looks at the circumstances. He get distracted instead of focusing on Christ and on the promises.
Yeah.
He start looking at the circumstances. Start looking, am I really walking on water? This is water. How am I? Because of the circumstances, he shift his focus from the promise to the circumstance.
Yeah.
He started drowning.
Faith. It's funny how the Bible says without faith it's impossible to please God.
100%.
So I guess this is why he drowned.
He got distracted, lost faith. He started questioning, looking at the circumstance, and then trying to justify and make sense of what was going on.
Yeah. Well, I think we're coming to an end. there's plenty of stuff to talk about, and hopefully we can talk about it next time. But with this a little amount of time we've had on this podcast, I feel like this has been a blessing. Hearing your story, inspiring. I'm flabbergasted. I'm wowed. And I feel like many people will be encouraged. And this is the reason why we have this podcast, is to shine a light on inspiring stories and, and speak to people, and and I feel like today we've done so, but I feel like we were meant to dig deeper because of time.
Maybe there'll be a next time. Who knows?
Hopefully there will be a next time.
Who knows?
And then we can talk about it more.
Yeah.
But for those who want to know who Karolina is, how can people follow you and stuff?
I'm actually on all platforms minus X.
Right.
I'm on Instagram. That's LIINA. I think it's a dot or an underscore. I can't remember. But I'm gonna go for a dot.
Okay.
LIINA.GTR.
Cool. Well, what we'll do is we'll tag you on it. But
Let's do that.
I feel like I forgot something, and it's very important to mention.
Okay.
Right. 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
What was your experience
What's my experience?
on Solo Labia?
Oh.
Because that's how I got to discover you, man.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
I was actually intrigued because I was like, who is this
That's how I got to
person reaching
discover
out
you.
to me? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. What was my experience in Solo Labia? How was my experience? It was interesting. I think I'd walked away from cameras
Okay.
for a while. And when they asked me to join, I was like, okay, I guess. Let me give it a try. What do I got to lose anyways? And I think being there was a personal, how do I say it? Eye-opening moment for me to realize how far I'd come.
Right.
I'm pretty sure if anyone, or if you go look for my interviews when I did Miss Congo,
Yeah.
it wasn't the same person. It wasn't the same person at all. Like Karolina at Miss Congo, Karolina at Solo Labia was two completely different people.
What makes you say that?
I know. When I joined Miss Congo, the reason why I joined Miss Congo was to build my confidence. I come from a very, very low self-esteem.
Yeah.
So it was for me to build my confidence.
Yeah.
So you can actually see growth where I didn't have a voice.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to talk. Solo Labia, I was voicing my thought.
So
Which was a very, it was an interesting thing, and it was I'm always open to different perspectives, so
Yeah.
it was nice to to get different intakes, and I was quite surprised at different mindset, but it was nice because it had me thinking.
I feel like you shared your voice and your perspective. People
Yeah.
heard you,
Oh,
and
okay.
it was very interesting.
Yeah.
But hopefully next time we'll talk about it more.
Yeah,
For
definitely.
those who have not watched Solo Labia, please go and watch Solo Labia on YouTube. What season was it?
I want to say 4.
Season 4?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't even remember what season it was.
I think
but
it was 4. I could be
Yeah.
wrong, but I think it was 4.
Please go and watch, and I'm sure you'll like her energy. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching Spotlight. Once again, I go by the name Aaron Mkd, a.k.a. DJ Breaks. And I kindly ask you, all of you, to subscribe on our YouTube page, like our page on Instagram, and soon we'll be going on Apple Podcast, you call it, Spotify Podcast, you call it. Yes, we'll be going on any of those platforms. So thank you so much for watching it. And
Can I add something?
yeah,
Share and comment as well as liking and subscribing.
yep, you've heard that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Peace. Thank you, Karolina.
There we go. There we go.
Got it again.
You're getting there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, cheers. Bye.
Bye.